Councillors, welcome to this full council meeting with service provision. Normally I have to ask if somebody wants to record the meeting. We're well aware that we have the recording both filming and thank you for that. I think you may well have started.
Yes, I have.
All right. I would also just remind councillors of our code of conduct. At the last full council meeting, we had some conduct that didn't put Holme Valley Parish Council in a good light, and I know you're all aware of that. So I would remind you about the general principles of the code of conduct. Thank you. Right. Item number 1, Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960 amended by the Ordinance of Public Local Government Bodies Regulations. This is the recording that I just mentioned that's happening. Okay. Does anybody else wish to record the meeting? And if they do, are you in a position in which you can record, or do you wish to move? No one else? Thank you. Number 2, standing orders. This is the suspension of the standing order. Our current standing order actually says that there's no recording, but under the new legislation we have to now suspend that. So can I have a show of hands to suspend that standing order? Thank you very much. Item number 3, public question time. I believe we have 3 people who wish to speak, and I think I've been given them in an order. If you're coming to speak, we've got to start off with, could you just come here so then all the councillors can see you? Is that all right?
Yes, I will.
Okay. I will remind you that you have 3 minutes.
Yeah.
However, we have a total of 15 minutes. So,
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is and I'm the 18th Suit Hill. And I'm addressing this to the members of Holme Valley Parish Council, who are also the trustee of the Holme Valley Land, which is in one detached building. To the north side of Christchurch, 2 large detached houses. Suit Hill Mill has got proposed developments for 16 apartments. There has been some but little objection to these. We're not against all development. Contrast this to the strength of objections to your proposed development of the area to the south of Christchurch by virtually all the residents, the community surrounding Suit Hill. I'd like to speak to you on behalf of some of that community. Community is a small word with a very great meaning. Our community is small, but vibrant and steeped in history. We live in an area that has most of the socio-economic groups within it. This is its strength. From large £1 million houses to small 1-bedroom cottages, we all belong here. Some have lived here over 90 years. Others chose to live here because of its divergent population. Sociologists will tell you that a society is a community of people living in a particular country or region and having shared customs and organisations. A community of independent individuals working for the benefit of their society. Collective memory plays a great part in ensuring the survival of a community and therefore society. We share a sense of heritage and commonality with many people and feel a sort of kinship with others in our community. Our community is finding it difficult to comprehend the lack of consultation and lack of empathy with us. We are united in our desire to keep this important space for future generations. I'd like to talk a little bit about history. The area around Christchurch was once the original village centre. The top car park has always been known as the Green. Many a children's cricket matches played here. The Suit Hill car park was the school playground. Lots of residents who played here as children still live in the area and have many stories to tell about their exploits there. The auction room was New Mill School, and there are many photographs of families that have passed through. On Church Street there was a pub, the post office and a shop. On Suit Hill, number 12 was New Mill Club. Number 20 was a shop. Number 3 was a watch and clock repairer. There was also a blacksmith shop, a shoemaker and a carpenter. Suit Hill Mill employed local people, and the field opposite was the best sledging field around, known as Bob's Field. There are many more stories and tales to be told, although the shops and workplaces have moved south, or east in this case. We need a place to help keep those memories alive. An information board with seating areas so that any visitor or newcomer to the area will get the feeling of a community and some sense of its history. A map showing the many wonderful footpaths and cycle routes that start here. Many walkers and cyclists park here in order to enjoy our countryside. Christ Church is a very busy church with many activities and functions. We need car parking spaces to accommodate the parishioners and visitors. As there are many cottages with little or no garden or parking space, this land is a valuable place to park, to meet, to talk, to relax and to share. Please work with us to achieve this. Thank you.
The next person is
Good evening. My name is. I also live in Sood Hill, and I would also like to talk to you about community concern about the planning application at Sood Hill. The number of people who have responded, and I'm sure you're aware of this, we have 121 objections. And I think that indicates in itself, just as a number, the strength of feeling locally. These objections come from a very compact area, from Sood Hill Terrace, Church Street, Barraclough Road. People who feel directly affected. And perhaps it's reasonable to set the record straight in relation to NIMBYism. Talking to people in the neighbourhood, they are not against building houses. They are against losing a valued community amenity. The ownership of the land in question is in some dispute. What isn't in dispute is that this land has for more than 150 years been used by local people as common land, as a school play area, and more recently as a car park for parishioners, residents and visitors, and as a meeting area, as you've already heard, for cyclists and walkers. Church services and monthly auctions see the car park overflowing. Additionally, Sood Hill Mill, which has planning permission for 16 apartments, has just gone up for sale and development. Once this development is complete, there will be more residents and more visitors to consider. The land in question is not a piece of empty, unused wasteland to be reasonably exploited in furtherance of the aims of the Holme Valley Land Charity. It is a vital community facility which equally could be protected in accordance with that same charity's objectives. In conclusion, I would like to make an appeal on behalf of people who live in Sood Hill and the immediate surroundings. We are asking you, our local elected representatives, for your support in retaining this valued local amenity. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, councillors. You may remember when I last addressed you, we were concerned about uncertainties or concerns about the legitimacy to the claim of the land. I can see from some of the letters here that there is very clearly a sense in which previous people who had dealings with this whole plot of land have clearly demarcated the quarry from the top piece of land. And I think that encapsulates the spirit of what the community feel. The community do not oppose in any sense at all the development of the quarry. In fact, the whole of the community is behind you on making use of all of these quarries around the Holme Valley. But that top piece of land, as has been said, has been in use by the community for more than 150 years. Latterly, of course, with the age of the motor car, it's used a lot, mainly as a car park. Okay, now, the letter I handed to you last time, at the end of that letter, I invited you to meet with us. That's all we've ever wanted from November, when you first put this plan in. For whatever reason, you've refused to do so. And we come here tonight to repeat that invitation. Please come and see us. Because we didn't get a reply from you to that letter of the 9th of February, what we have done is we've got one of our members has had the means by which they can produce this artist impression of how the community sees that amenity for the forthcoming period, basically. So it's merely an artistic impression of what we have had in mind from the very onset of this engagement. As you can see, it doesn't call for anything radical. Nothing radical at all. But what it does do, it gives it a very clear central village identity, complete with notice boards, plantation, proper car park, and we think we can, in consultation, in agreement with you, we think we can develop this into formally a piece of land that actually, informally, it's been for the last 150 years. Nothing more, nothing less. And I think the cost to the council will be minimal, because already we've got earthworks going on at opposite the new mill, the Sood Hill mill, planting and so on and so forth. Plants can be done by the local community. We also have a broad range of skills within the community that actually can achieve this vision. And it's only nothing more than a community vision for a community amenity that has belonged to the community for 150 years. It's no more complicated than that. So, sincerely, councillors, we invite you, first of all, if you can see your way to do this, to at least hold back and come and talk with us and see if we can resolve this issue to everyone's satisfaction and certainly to the benefit of the whole of the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I ask members? Oh, sorry, I know there's one or two that came just at 7 o'clock. Is anybody who wishes to speak on any items on the agenda? Right, that's fine. Good. Okay, item 4, to accept apologies for absence.
Councillors Tom Dixon, Keith Charlotte and Andrew Hampshire, David McGowan, long-standing special dispensation.
We think you might be wrong. Item 5, to receive members' personal and disclosure of pecuniary interest in items on the agenda. Has anybody got any? No? Consider any written request or any DPI dispensation on this one. Thank you very much. Item 7, to consider whether any items on the agenda should be discussed in private session. Has anybody any views? Everything's in the open? Thank you very much. Right, item 8.
Sorry, no, Sarah, I don't think so. I don't think there's anything.
There's no accounts, there's no...
Yeah, we've got a list of accounts. We don't need that.
You don't need that, there's no contracting.
Yeah.
Right, no. Right. Move on to item 8. We've only allocated 15 minutes for this. However, if it needs to last longer, it will last longer. Okay? To start off with, what I want councillors to just agree that we have got certain pieces of information at our disposals that we didn't have at the meeting when this was raised. Information such as I call myself a new member. I know I've been on the council 8 years, but I am quite new, and a lot of what came up at the meeting was quite historical. So the three bits for me was what was the link between the school and what they considered the playground. So when the school was sold, why didn't they sell the playground? And how can we establish what that was about? The common land claim that we need to understand, and this idea about how does Holme Valley Parish Council prove that it's Holme Valley Parish Council. You can't prove it's nobody else's, but you can prove that it's your own. Okay, so I'd like members to just indulge me with going through some documentary evidence that everybody's had before we get into the discussion. The first piece of evidence is the 12th of December document from the County Surveyor, County Hall, Wakefield, which in the first paragraph it says, this land is used as a children's playground for the children attending New Mill School and has for 30 or 40 years, and so for 30 or 40 years the trustees of the school have paid to the council the sum of 1 shilling per annum for the right of using the portion of land which has not been quarried as such. And it goes on to say they're not wishing to continue with that tenancy because of the dangerous condition of the walls. Okay, so that for me,
What date land is that?
this is the 12th of December of 1951.
Copy of it is on the board.
Right.
The public if they wish to have a look.
Sorry, councillor, please.
Which council does it refer to? Is that West Riding?
This is the County Surveyor, County Hall, Wakefield, writing to
County Council.
the urban, whatever we were
The
before.
Urban District Council as it was being at the time.
Okay. And they sort of want to absolve themselves of any liability from the children attending the school and meeting with an accident. So that for me clarified how come the school and the playground as such were not connected. The school was quite clearly renting at 1 shilling an annum. I don't know how much a shilling were worth in 1951, but
Lots of money.
there you go then. So that for me clarifies that the playground was rented. So people who said, I played there for years, yes, they did. So it wasn't about we were calling them fibbers or whatever, although various allegations were made against the parish council. Right, so that for me is that. There also is a document up there, I'm not sure if this was circulated to councillors, that the Kirklees land charges has provided the parish council with evidence that says that the site is definitely not on the common land register, and the land register is a public document which can be viewed at Kirklees land charges at Flint Street, Fartown. Okay, so this is not common land. Okay, this being somebody else's land, I think we've got other documentation from which sums up there that dates from 1952, where the some act typewriting in those days is a letter from Highways and Bridges Department to Holme Firth Urban District Council that confirms in 1952 that it is part of the Holme Firth Urban District Council's land. There's also, some of the concerns was about the vicarage at New Mill and or the church, and whether the church were under the impression that it was theirs. Now we know that the church was under the impression it was theirs because they put in a planning application. However, we've also got letters on files to the Reverend Lee, who was the vicar in 1994, that reminds him that the site belongs to the parish council because they were allowing others, Duffy contractors,
Contractor was using it for storage of
something.
building materials.
Oh yes, it was the
I sorted him out. And got the money back from the vicar.
so
Is the
yes.
receipt still in the file?
So for me, that just confirms that the land is vested in Holme Valley Parish Council or subsequently the land charity, and the allegations about being dishonest, underhand and unjust were not, well, they weren't pleasantly received, but they're actually factually incorrect. I think one of my concerns, and I think I've expressed this to some of you, that I'm not convinced that the community at Soothhill have had the best advice, support, guidance, and therefore I want to openly forgive them for writing horrible letters to the parish council saying we were dishonest, unjust, etc. I want us to forgive them because they were, in my opinion, misled. Okay. Right, now we come to the agenda items. I don't know if anybody else wants, sorry, Councillor Roddenham, you wish
Sorry,
to
Madam
speak?
Chair. I really do appreciate where you're coming from with your sentiments, but you may have noticed, and it's probably recorded, that I left the room on 2 occasions. I left the room because I wanted to be noted that I was not prepared to give my ears to people who slandered and libelled me personally as a councillor, and this council as a council. I certainly have got no forgiveness, because whether or not people are misled, it does not give them the right to actually misbehave, nor does it give them the right to slander and libel other people. Thank you, Chair.
Right. Shall we move on to the agenda item then? I think we do have one ward councillor with us. I'm not sure if you want to speak on this, Councillor Hall, to consider the correspondence received about the planning application.
Madam Chair, all I'd like to say on behalf of this is that I can honestly see both sides of this debate. I have lived in Newmill for 46 years. I know what devastation it will cause if there is building on this land. A lot of things that have been said, that have been noted, that I have agreed with. There were certain things that I didn't agree with. Firstly, there was the write-up in the Firth Express where it was said that this land had been used over the years. In the last 5-6 years, it had been used for bonfires. We know this not to be true. The bonfires have been held actually on this land. If there's been communal barbecues held on this land, which was stated, I knew nothing about it. It must have happened on the day when we were on holiday. And the other thing was that it had been used, I think it said, for a church bazaar. Excuse me. To the best of my knowledge, I've never known a church bazaar being held on there. So I have to say that there are certain indications from this item in the paper that were very misleading. The other thing that was noted about this, which I think has to be brought to light, was the fact that I honestly think that we hadn't given enough open meetings for this to be discussed. There was one which I believe was open to suggestion, and no suggestions came forth from this. Now, the final thing is that I have to say that I know some of the letters that we have received were upsetting, but on the other side, I can understand how shall I put it, probably the mistrust in some of the things that have happened in the past over land charity sales. I know, probably to our regret, some of these have finished up finishing up with having to go for court cases, which have now, I understand, been resolved. And I can see that probably at this side of Newmill, they're wondering if perhaps another mistake had been made there. Thank you.
What do you want to say, Councillor Brooks?
I think because Madam Chairman said, I do feel sorry for what's happened to you in the sense that a certain person has misled you in a garden path, a garden path. We have listening council. We do our best to listen to what's going on. I appreciate a lot of things gone round the corners, misled, ear whispering, all that. There's a lot of things going on which shouldn't have gone on, I appreciate that. But we are a listening council. Now, somebody's got a good document here, gives a possible idea. Now, you've got to give us time to think about these things. When 4 years ago, we went to the community and asked what we can do, and it was noted then that nothing came forward. What came forward was arguments, misconceptions, and a bit of hypocrisy, basically. Now we've got the truth there. The documents are there. They're on there to read. So we're just like, let's move forward with this now. Let's get rid of this idiotic argument between each other, blaming you, blaming us, blaming them. The truth's there. Let's move forward. Now we've got an opportunity as a council and the community to work together. Well, let's do it, because we are an open council.
Exactly.
And it's about time we get rid of the idiot who's caused this trouble. Talk to the people who know what we're talking about, not the idiot. I'm not going to mention his
Thank you,
name.
Councillor. Councillor Seaver?
Yes. I'd like to thank the people who came on tonight because obviously we can see they're very passionate. I had 2 letters off Anne Beale. I didn't know whether it was Mrs. Anne Beale, Miss Anne Beale, or Miss Anne Beale. So,
Peter?
I can't told her.
If you talk to us.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the thing is that we have a letter from Paul Dixon who knows as much about this as a lot of people do. We've had a lot of proof where it said this has happened but it doesn't, or it doesn't or it doesn't. But we've had loads of people from Brockles, from Meltham, from Upper Thong, who've told us all exactly the same regarding building around where they live. And it's not our decision. It's Kirklees' decision. That's whose decision, not ours. But we try and do the best for the people. Like I represent only Central, and I try and represent only Central. There's people like to represent Brockle, from Holme, from wherever they are, and we try and listen to everybody, what everybody has to say. And I think we've got to make us mind up. I can't understand why when they were requesting a meeting, why we actually haven't had a meeting with them. I can't understand that myself. But somebody will no doubt will tell me about that. So, thank you for coming, and thank you for putting your point.
Thank you. When I first started coming to this meeting, I thought after the abusive last meeting we had, I was going to vote against it. But then I start thinking, hearing the people who've spoken and seeing this here plan, should not the Kirklees Ward Councillor be putting in a request for a village green status for this land? This has been done, I know it, successfully in Newsom. It's not a big application. It's a lot easier than actually getting a public right of way made public. So can we suggest it up to the Kirklees Ward councillors about village green status? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon?
Right. I didn't think I was going to be here tonight. I thought this meeting was taking place last week. All councillors have been notified of my views in letter, whether any of the public have or have not. I've been owned or been involved with property at Sood Hill for in excess of 45 years. I feel it very disappointing that when any meeting that's taken place, I have never been invited to them. I have never even had one, yes, would you come please, Paul? Obviously because I'm a parish councillor, I know more than they do, and they're frightened of me. There's quite a few people that have lived in Surrey longer than we've had the sale room there. But when the sale room was in its infancy, well before it was born, a meeting, me, my father and Mr Nicholson, the clerk of the council, as to what his views were as to whether a sale room was actively accepted up there. He said, his words were, furniture warehouse, you can have 14 sales a year. Oh, no, sorry, 17 sales a year. That is why our sales are 3 weekly. His words were, you'll need more car parking than just on the roadside. The parish council are quite happy for you to use their car park, which was the playground. That bit of land was improved in status by a valley improvement scheme. It's been stated today that once intruded on there, we found out that he had given the vicar a large amount of money because the vicar said, thank you very much, the church needs it. The gentleman in question was spoken to by myself, who went and got the money back off the vicar and let Mrs. Bewick have the cheque. I believe that is written down somewhere.
Thank you. Follow up history lesson.
That did happen. I didn't want this land to be developed in my lifetime. The reason the sale room is kept open is for personal reasons and tax purposes. It's quite simple. I'm not trying to say so. Because if it wasn't,
Thank you for your honesty, Councillor.
if it wasn't, it would not be still there. It would have been developed long since. But we've got other councillors, Kirklees councillors, who were on this council when this planning permission for a vicarage was approved. We had no objection to it, but we knew it would never happen because it wasn't on it. And anybody can make an application on somebody else's land. So it was to our benefit that we have a site that at that time was passed for development, which meant that it could be done the same sometime in the future. And this is part of what was awarded. The quarry and all the quarries are not just what they seem. Some people say a bit on the top. If you want, I can ask our chairman of the land charities to put in an application to quarry and take back further than what was quarried in the initial. But that would be worse. So if it is that the land charity in their capacity have done what they've done, I fully approve it, and I recommend that this council does as they feel they wish to do. But I, as one, have no objection, and I will carry on operating up there, even if I lose 15 to 20 car parking places. It will be me that loses more than most. But I am not standing in the way of the council.
I think we all need to be very careful tonight, Chair, because there's a lot of very strong feelings on both sides. There are a lot of councillors here who feel very strongly, not just from this event, but from other events where we've been abused, been told we're liars, we've had stories told in the press and untold. So I think it's very difficult for us to as councillors, certainly many of us here, to come to any conclusions or decisions tonight. And I think the same way I understand why the New Mill residents, Soon Hill residents, also feel very strongly. They've perhaps done things that they regret. It would have been nice to have heard an apology, but they probably feel as strongly as we feel the other direction about what's happened. So I think we need to step back, and I think this is a matter for the trustees of the land charity. I think we're meeting next week. Maybe the best thing is for all of us to step back, think about what's happened. We've heard your advice, Chair, and defer this matter and put it on the agenda for next week's meeting. And perhaps I don't quite feel strong.
Councillor Cropper, does this land definitely belong to the land charity? To the chair?
Yeah.
Right. I think personally, this is my own thoughts, that this can be resolved dead easy. If the land charity owns it, why don't we just give it to the residents of New Mill and let them do with it what they want, like this land they've got here. It's no good to us.
for a couple of houses to fall out with your constituents. So as far as I'm concerned, get rid of it. Give it to the people of New Mill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You'll be able to voice that opinion at the trustee meeting. Sorry, it was great. Charles.
Thanks. Just looking at this, the drawing that's come forward, there's something we'll be looking at next week at my charity meeting. It will be helpful to know what else goes along with the drawing. Rodney says to hand it to the people of New Mill. Well, there needs to be a body that it goes to, whether it goes to the church or whether it goes to a constituted group. You can't really just go to an unknown group of persons. It needs to be some form of entity that's making this proposal. And in terms of making this proposal, it needs to be clear in terms of how it's going to be organised, how it's going to operate, how it's going to fund itself, how it's going to manage and maintain this site. If you can do that, then we have something to look at. But if you can't do that, really, it's not really anything. A week might be tight timescales to pull all that together. Something we should consider it next week. But equally, I think that if residents are keen on pursuing this route, they need to be aware of what we do need to get together, what timescales, if it's going to even stand a chance of being considered as a practical option. I used to be on the land charity. I've been involved in, I used to be on the land charity management committee. I still am on the board of trustees of the order. I've been involved in a number of sites that have been awkward in terms of ownership and what's happened to it over the years, and how it's passed from public ownership, now public ownership. This site isn't one of them, it never has been. Its provenance can be traced all the way through. So issues on other sites where there's been aspects of adverse possession and alternative claims, those issues don't exist with this. The provenance of it is clear. It cannot be common land, whether it's registered or not. It certainly didn't go through this 1970s process of being registered. But it can't be common land because the Acts of Parliament that created common land were also the same Act of Parliament that identified this as a highways quarry. It cannot be both. It can only be one or the other. The Act states clearly it's a highways quarry. And ownership control passes through the highways bodies. How did it come to the Holme Valley Parish Council? Well, on local authority reorganisation in the 70s, when West Riding ceased to exist, when Kirklees was born, when Holme Firth Urban District Council ceased to exist and Holme Valley Parish Council came into creation, it was a spent quarry. It either is a Kirklees property or it's a parish council property. It's that simple. Kirklees did not take it, and as I understand it, not only have they not claimed ownership, they've renounced ownership of it. The only legal owner that exists is the parish council. In terms of the claim by the Lord of the Manor, the Lord of the Manor needs to read the specific Act of Parliament. His rights are contained within that. There may be claims to waste of the manor, and most commonly those would be grass vergers. This is not a waste of the manor. It's identified in the Act of Parliament specifically. There is no remainder provision in that Act of Parliament, and these Acts of Parliament vary all over the country. So the Graveship of Holme Enclosure Act is differently worded to the Holme Act, different to the Meltham Act, and different to the Thurstonland Act. There's no remainder provision in this. It goes to the Highways Authority. It may well have been an oversight on their part not to say specifically what happens with them once their use has ended. But the Act for the Graveship of Holme is almost...
Can you please make sure that all mobile phones are switched off? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Seabeck.
The Act of Parliament is almost 200 years old. So in terms of any corrections to it, it's in long history. To my mind, Land Charity has the right to have submitted this application. Was it the right thing to do? Is there other options? Is there another way forward? We can consider them, we can look at them. But to do so, we need to know what we're looking at. And just to recap, if this option is something that's going to be seriously considered, we do need to understand the detail that sits behind it. If it's just a case of leave it as it is, that'll leave a lot of unanswered questions. That's really not what the purpose of the Land Charity is. The Land Charity's role is effectively to tidy up a 200-year-old problem. So I'd like to end on saying that the residents are keen to see this happen. We need to know the detail that sits behind the drawing. And I'll come at that with an open mind, and I'm sure all my colleagues will feel as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cotter.
Chair, I'd like to be as balanced as I have hopefully been all the way through this, and say that I have great admiration for the passion of the people of Newmill. They've really organised themselves and put together a concise and effective communication tool. In terms of balance, I'm ashamed at the behaviour of some of the people of Newmill, and the letter that accuses me individually and all of these people around here of being nefarious, dishonest and various other things is almost unforgivable. One of our councillors, our elected councillors, has had to leave the room tonight because she is so ashamed of that, and I share her shame. And I think, as one of our councillors has suggested already, one of the ways forward may well be an apology. Let us not forget that there are two pieces of land here at Sood Hill. The other one has not been mentioned at all yet, adjacent, and they're split by Sood Hill Terrace. At the moment, that's used for car parking and has been for some time. There are no plans for that at all, none whatsoever. I can see some of the elements of the land, the suggestions on this land here, being very laudable and very good for community spirit. And I think that the people of Sood Hill may well to consider working with the charity to see whether there is a solution there, and it may well involve that other piece of land. I'm just a member of the trustee like anybody else. The correct forum for this discussion is not round this table today. It is in the next management committee meeting, which Councillor Kay has identified as next week, which is then come back as a recommendation to the trustee, and the trustee makes the decision. It is not individual council members, it is not the management committee, it is not me as the chairman who makes that decision. We come forward with a recommendation. We do communicate with people. We've had 4 meetings, formal meetings. I've had a very long telephone conversation with one of the objectors tonight. We've had people coming along to our last meeting and to this meeting, and I think we have afforded them the courtesy of allowing them to speak and making their views absolutely plain. Their views are absolutely plain. I know categorically, I have been told categorically what their aims are. And I think we have all absorbed those, and we've all listened very carefully. The future is the future, and we will plan it in the correct way. And thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak? Have we got some proposals and seconders for policies of action?
Chair, I'd like to propose that this matter is discussed at the next Land Charity Management meeting, and the recommendations from that meeting are brought back to the trustee at the next trustees meeting.
I'd like to second that.
Okay. Does everybody just, can we have a show of hands?
Can I make a proposal that we give people opportunities to forward information on for possible ideas later we should do. If they wanted to come creative ideas themselves, like Charles said, and let them come forward and give you a chance to discuss it in a proper formal manner. In the next meeting.
We can discuss that as a matter in the next management committee meeting.
So, as I said, they can do that got to be discussed as well.
Okay, so item 1, point 1, will forward to the land charity meeting. Management.
Recommendation to the trustees at the next meeting.
Right. Item 2 is the letter received on the 4th of March from Council Eviction, which we've already spoken to. We just note that. Email dated the 27th of February from the Parish Ward Councillor. That was from Councillor Patrick saying, I forgot what it said. Yeah, he wanted to know. No, he asked for an item on the agenda. I think one of my disappointments is that it's for any councillor to put any item on the agenda, and why it took what it took to get it on the agenda. I'm actually quite disappointed as a parish councillor that we had people sitting on this council who didn't bring it forward as an agenda item. I've discussed it, and then to approve actions already taken or to be taken by the clerk to report. This is about a number of, we've heard tonight from saying he hasn't had the benefit of reply to his letter. We dealt with that letter as a freedom of information request, and I know that has been responded to.
Chair, just a point of clarity, if I may. What I actually said was the council had not replied to the invitation to meet. I certainly, and in fact, I congratulate Mrs. Barber in terms of I think I've no less than 15 sheets of paper from her in reply to that first letter. I specifically said, and let me be absolutely clear, it was in respect of that last request to meet with councillors to discuss the issue.
Well, that isn't a matter for the council as a public body to decide on. It is a matter for the trustee.
That's fine,
hence
but
it needs to
in
come
terms
to
of
this
what,
meeting.
in terms of what I actually said earlier, I want that to be
Right,
clear.
okay,
Thank
that
you.
clarifies
Thank
that.
you.
Is there anything else from your report?
No, I don't think so, except, no, because that's going to the next meeting.
Right.
Some of them.
Okay. Right, can we now move on to the next item? Number 9 is Code of Conduct. I'm not sure if you want to stay, or would you like to go?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Not yourself,
Thank you, councillors.
Madam Chairman, I would like to congratulate you on your patience in that last matter.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dixon. Right, bearing in mind, we won't be saying that when we haven't got through all these agenda items and haven't got here till 11 o'clock. Right, item number 9, Code of Conduct. Consider legal professional advice provided following the Code of Conduct issue at previous council meeting, and the council's duty to protect its officer and other members from vexatious correspondence and bullying tactics.
YLCA.
Yes.
I requested advice on behalf of the council, the items of correspondence that were received or that were received by members of the council, because in fact I, as in place, but I as clerk had not received a copy of it. So I wanted advice initially as to whether I should in fact acquire a copy from a member.
Any comments? I think I'd like to report from my point of view that I have spoken to a monitoring officer in Kirklees. I have to say that was for licensing and something else, because the monitoring officer for the standards board was on holiday. However, I have submitted written documentation to the monitoring officer for their advice, guidance, action. I don't know yet because they haven't got back to me.
Chair. I'm going to take the bull by the horns here. I know there are regimes and there are protocols to go through. When I was at school, there was somebody bullied in our class, and I didn't stick up for him. And I feel ashamed about that. When you get to adults, you expect better behaviour. Adult bullying is just as unpleasant as pushing in the back when you're in the playground. In some ways, it's far more unpleasant. And it works like this. You talk about an individual behind their back when they're not able to defend themselves, and you spread malicious rumours, and you question their integrity, you question their ability, and you question their honesty, and you go all the way through the whole gamut of factors and facets of somebody's character, and you don't do it to the face. And then the next meeting you go along to, in a forum, perhaps there, you do exactly the same. And that is undermining, and it is a serious form of bullying. Somebody does it to me, I've got an option. I can ignore it, I can shrug it off, I can go and have words with them, straightforward. I'm an elected parish councillor. I don't need to do this. Don't get paid to do it, and I can walk away. If it gets too much for me, I can just walk away. When one of our paid employees has the same, it's her livelihood. It's feeding her kids. It's making sure that she can get bread on the table. I should say they rather than she. I don't want to be too specific about this. But, although we've only got one employee, we should not allow this to go. And I'm putting my name down as one side of the fence. You're either one side of the fence or you're not. You're either brave or you're not. You'll either support bullying or you won't. Well, I won't. I won't do it at all. I'm not going to have this at all, and I'm sick to the back teeth. I've seen it before, and I've seen that man over there bullied, and you may know, councillors, one of the reasons I left the one particular political group was because I saw bullying, and I walked away from it. I wouldn't be party to it, and perhaps I should have made more of it then. Well, I am making more of it now, and I don't know what the process will lead to, but I'm declaring, and I'm going to suggest you either say round this table whether you are in favour of bullying or not. And I'm surprised, or perhaps I'm not surprised, that we've not got a full contingent tonight, because I think yet again here's an opportunity. And that little lad, by the way, just going back to the little lad at school, he was bullied by the biggest lad in the class. The biggest lad in the class didn't grow any more, and he became a dwarf. The bullied became a 6'3" rugby player. And they had a conversation, I can remember it, when they were 18, and they forgave each other. And they moved on, and they said, well, all right, I shouldn't have done it. Oh, well, fair enough, mate, it's all right, it's okay, don't worry about it. Pat him on the top of the head. Now, I think there's an opportunity tonight, and maybe it's an opportunity in the future, for someone around the council table generally who has been guilty of this bullying. Now is the opportunity to say, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that, and I didn't realise it was quite as hurtful and as undermining as it is, as it has proved to be, and his opportunity is now.
Just to give you some idea on timescales on the standards complaint, the complaint I made against Councillor Sims, it was heard very quickly by the Conservative Group business manager. When the business manager instructed Councillor Sims to apologise, I thought it had been concluded with very quickly. But Councillor Sims decided not to make that apology. So then he went on to the standards, and that can take a considerable period of time. And unfortunately, even after the Standards Board acknowledging that false statements have been made and instructing apologies to be given, that councillor can still refuse to do so. Okay. In my case, we're going to mediation, and I'm hoping that Councillor Sims finally does make his offer of an apology. But unfortunately, the standards process isn't one. I think unlike the old system where there was some sanctions with it, even when their own group instructs them, ultimately, if that person chooses to disregard those findings and the direction given, there is no real sanction. If you like, the legislation leaves it to be a case of it's up to the electorate to form their opinion and to vote accordingly. What I would say is I wasn't at that meeting, but my own experience, I can understand where a lot of people are coming from. But I think, as Greg says, it'd be welcome if an apology and clearing of the air was offered. And I think the standards cases do need to be pursued. Well, there is a need for us all to work together. Ultimately, all of us serve the people in the Holme Valley. And whilst there may be issues between various councillors, we shouldn't lose the focus upon what it is we need to do. And it'd be a real shame if a barrier came up between elected members of the Parish Council for the Holme Valley and elected members of Kirklees Council for the Holme Valley. I think throughout this process we will need to be conscious of the fact that to offer as many opportunities as possible for people to apologise. And it may well take 3, 4, 5 goes before that happens, but we still need not to lose focus of what all our roles are supposed to be. And there is a danger, and I've struggled with it over the years, of you have to work with people. You really have to work with people, even if when you sat in the room you're getting nothing but abuse. There's a job to be done, and it's not easy. But we need not to lose sight of that, even if other people do. We need not to lose sight of that.
Thank you for that. Brooke, did you want to speak?
Yeah, myself, I'd like to congratulate Top Tail there for having this matter what's happened with good response and attitude, and didn't take it personally. We've been very professional, and I'd like to congratulate on that. And also say, as Greg said, we'd like to support you as a council. I've been bullied in my own life, future life, I've always been bullied. But I'm against bullying, and I know it happens to me a lot. I take it on the chin, I've got a big chin, I've got big shoulders. Yet it does upset me, and I don't know what time I went through that. And if I can offer support, I will do. But I'm limited to what we can offer because of rules and regulations. So I do know what you've got through, Sam. I do appreciate that. It was a tough job, and I would have not blamed you. You just said, I'm off. But I'm glad you stuck to your guns, Sally, and did what you did. And I'm proud of you of that, because we need people like you who know what to do and stand up to what you're not going to have it. And the two chairs there, the vice chair, well done. Don't listen to what's happened. You stuck by your guns and did a responsible thing and stuck by us. And also the chair, we all did his best. We all got upset for what happened. And things that happened in the past, we were upset. I've had to apologise for things. I just to bite the bullet and say I'm sorry to cause the situation. Even though, hand on that, I know for what it was not my responsibility. But to keep the peace, I said sorry. And I've been here 4 years now. And I'm the only person on this circle of table here who said sorry for actions. And I'm disgusted in that. There's certain members of this parish council, who we all know who they are, who think they can take a bully attitude and sulk and miserable and make people's lives hell, reporting to further bodies to get their own way. I said no, I'm not having it. Councillor Roberts stood up for me. She was the only person at the last time I got bullied who stood up for me, and I'm proud of that. She went to pull me and said, do not ever do that again. I was proud of Councillor Roberts doing that. not anybody else on this table here. It's about time, as a parish council, we stand up for each other and stand up for the people on the top table. We are here to do a job. Granted, we do not get paid for it, but I take pride of what I'm doing here. I take pride what Greg's done with the plan charity. I've done proud of what Judith's done with the planning. Everybody has got a responsibility in here to do it. We all said, yes, we'll do it. Well, let's start doing it. Back yourselves up. Don't hide the corner. It's about time we came forward and said, no, no more. We all know what person I'm on about. But we need to stop that happening a lot, because what's going to happen the next time, 4 years? Because a lot of us are going to be standing down. It's about time we said no. No more.
Thank you, Councillor.
Can I just say, if we're not careful here, we are putting ourselves in exactly the same position as what we are trying to avoid. So I think, you know, we just ought to just have a little calm, just take it a little bit more calmer now, and maybe move on to the next item, because it's just getting a little bit out of hand is all this.
Thank you. Right. Let's move over to then. Item number 10, to confirm the minutes of the previous council meeting. It was the Council of Finance and Management held on the 9th of February, number 14201, 202, sorry, 14228. We've had copies enclosed. Any comment?
Move them, Chair.
Have a show of hands, please. Thank you very much. Item 11, to confirm the committee meetings under the delegated powers, those being the Staffing Committee of the 23rd of February and the Planning Committee of the 2nd of March. You've had copies. Where are we going? Councillor Orton?
I'd just like to note that on the staffing committee meeting that it does refer to some proposals that you've got regarding publicity.
Next item.
Is it?
Yes. Next item.
Thank you.
Can we move then? Can I have
The minutes are okay.
minutes are okay?
Yeah, we're perfect.
Right, this is the reference on the committee.
No, you're fine.
Item. Oh, sorry. I tried to do both at once, sorry.
Move planning committee, Chair.
Can we move the planning as well?
Yeah, or move them all, by all means.
Right, reference from committees. The first one being the staffing committee, reviewed the way the council works to approve initial recommendations of the committee. Chairman of the council to report. We didn't have a chairman, we used the vice chair. Are you...
Wasn't expecting to speak at all, Chair.
Oh, right, okay. Let's have a look.
I think it was detailed in the minutes,
Yes.
actually.
The staffing committee, as part of their role, reviews the way the council works, and therefore a number of proposals were suggested to enable the way the council works to work better. And one of the recommendations is that the Publicity and Special Projects Committee should revert to its original name of Publications and Communications Committee. Now just hold that thought, because the other recommendation is that any special projects should be considered by the full council instead of that committee, including the appointment of any working or steering group. So they're a bit co-dependent of those two. So I'm not quite sure what people's views are.
Having read the minutes, that was the first that I was aware of anything, any prior discussions to it. So therefore it'll have to be referred to Publicity and Special Projects for additional comments perhaps as well regarding it.
We have a meeting on the 30th of March.
Fortnight tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, but the council will need to make the decision, because the committee doesn't have delegated powers to decide its remit or the name of the committee even. Right. It's down to the scheme of delegation, and the council makes a decision.
Right. But the committee knew nothing about this, no prior consultation had been made whatsoever. I don't believe with any members of the committee, so therefore I'm unable to comment, unable to vote prior to that.
Move it back to committee, and then the full council will make its own views based on what they will have had the opportunity who have sort things out between themselves.
So the next committee meeting and then make a recommendation, a further recommendation at the next
Yeah,
council meeting.
yeah.
We find some on the 20th of April.
I think this came about because we renamed it special projects, but that originally was to make sure that the media coverage of special projects was held within the publicity group. And what then happened was anything that were a special project suddenly got dumped on the publicity and special projects team to deal with it. So they ended up having very lengthy meetings. Well, it was the length of the meetings really, because it was one that was identified as always running over, which this tonight will be as well. Okay.
Can I just ask a question? What did you mean by special
Projects.
I said that without
There was the
Toilets, toilets.
the
Work well,
the toilets went there.
The seats went there.
The reason I asked that question is because we haven't as many committees who were like Pubs and Con, like Bev. Now Bev, to me, has been an excellent, I've been to one or two just to observe.
Check her out.
And she's an excellent chairperson. Excellent. And we look as if we're going to lose somebody like Bev, when we should think about keeping her and building a committee around her. The same with the chairperson. I think Mandy, I think you've been one of the best chairpersons.
That's not an agenda item.
Well, it
Doesn't matter.
I'm going to say it, because I think you've been one of the best chairpersons we've ever had. Now, and there's nothing against council government, but after you've done 1 year, you know, because it's somebody's turn to do it again.
I don't like stopping you, Pete, but it's not an agenda item. We need to decide what we're doing.
Okay.
So I'll refer it.
Example of being a good chair.
Thank you for that. He's a fan, obviously. Right, so item 1 is that the Pubs and Cons revert to its name. So we want the Pubs and Special Projects Committee to comment on it and then bring it back to the next meeting on the 20th of April or whatever.
And that leads into number 2 as well.
Yes, so should we do that as well, so we can sort them out. That members of the planning committee must review any applications in their area, so it should be a prerequisite that members of the committee show willingness to commit to the use of IT. There should also be at least one ward member represented on the planning committee. That is the recommendation. What do we think of that one?
Quite agree. Even though I don't do IT.
You agree?
If you want to come to my house and show me it on film, we can do it.
Will be somebody
Go to
in your
Barclays
office?
Bank, they're doing listening sessions.
Are we accepting that recommendation?
Yeah.
And if we are, can I have proposal in a second and a show of hands?
I would like to propose that, please.
Hang on a minute.
It's just a query, because obviously the New Mill area doesn't have a representative such on the planning. What's the proposal on that? Because obviously it's not happening. I mean, I know, as I say, but when I put down the thing, as I say, one person can't do it because of obvious reasons, you know, okay, please, but the other person can't do it. I mean, it could work out a lot. Is it like a go round from that?
Chair, I voiced my opinion years ago and why I didn't want to come on planning, because there were so many incidents where the things that had been refused at Holme Fair had walked through at Huddersfield. There hasn't just been one mistake made in our ballot, there's been dozens. And I felt that my time was more precious at home than wasting hours at planning meetings here when we weren't taking any notice of whatsoever. And I would prefer not to be on planning in future if we are still elected and we are still sitting and we are chosen to come again. Because I think the time has come to make sure that Kirklees take notice of local people. I know we haven't been and got high-flying degrees for this, that and the other on planning. What we've got is general knowledge, and common sense. And I'm afraid that Kirklees don't take one iota of what we consider. And that's why I don't want to be on planning.
I would suggest that the rules changing, because if this parish council comes up with a neighbourhood plan, then Kirklees Council has no choice but to listen to Holme Valley Parish. They will have to. They will.
If they do, then yes.
So what are we doing with this then? Are we proposing it? Have we got to propose that? Have we got a second there?
Yeah, might I just say the implication on one person from each ward on planning? As far as I'm aware, that has always been the case. I can never remember that not being the case.
Yes. Oh, okay. So we've got a proposer, we've got a seconder. Yeah, seconder. Have a show of hands. All in favour? No. Everywhere. Right. Recommendation 4, that any disrespect for other members of Kirklees Ward councillors must be treated as a contravention of the council's code of conduct and report to Kirklees standards.
Can you say that?
That any disrespect for other members of Kirklees Ward councillors, must be treated as a contravention of the council's code of conduct and reported to Kirklees standards. Number. Oh, is it? No, is this? Yes, these are these are the where the council works on your staffing minutes.
These are number 1460. Review of the way the council works. It's recommendation number 4.
So any disrespect. Is that what you said? Yeah. Any disrespect for other members or Kirklees Ward councillors must be treated as a contravention of council code of conduct and reported to Kirklees standards. What do you think about that one then? Councillor Seaver?
We only have usually one or two Kirklees councillors that come to meetings, and that's the only way we can get to them, is through them. What alternative do we have? Because we know what it's like down at Kirklees. If you go, it sticks out a mile like a sore thumb. How can you get to where you can, where you can tell them or say it doesn't happen when it does? Because the council in the past, they've denied it. Oh, it doesn't happen when you know it does. How other you can say, hey, wait a minute, code of conduct, you can't say that, What can we say?
Nothing.
I actually think, isn't that covered in this code of conduct?
It is, it's in the code of conduct, but it's just how often we actually report them. And I think it goes back to what Councillor Cropper was saying as part of this, that the council's policy on bullying. If there is any disrespect, we've got to see it through, we've got to follow it through with standards. If it's a code of conduct issue, it should be reported to standards.
Councillor Steele?
Chair, just to repeat that the recommendations that are coming out of this meeting, none of them were new. They were all things that we've all already signed up for, that certain members of the staffing committee believed were worth bringing back to everyone's attention.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we can't have a debate and we can't challenge things, but it means when things start to turn personal, when we start making personal comments about other people, then we have to consider what we're saying and be more careful. But there's nothing new in the actual proposals.
Okay. Are we all right with that one then? Yeah. Can I show of hands? Thank you very much, Lee. The next one is that a copy of the clerk's original notes of the 17th of January 2012, together with her most recent report and recommendation.
That's just to note. So the next meeting
is not yet. That's just to note that item. Right. Next, annual parish. No. Planning Committee to approve recommendation on venue and theme for the annual parish meeting. Chairman of committee to report. Councillor Roberts.
I think we had actually possibly spoken about having the meeting. Did we at the Methodist?
Yes.
We did.
Yes.
Because our chairman at that time, at present, is holding a soiree and presentation, and were we thinking there were going to be a lot of people there?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Well, we're going to invite representatives of community groups.
That was it. Because of the neighbourhood plan. That was it. Couldn't just think what it was. But because the parish council has got the go-ahead now to form this neighbourhood plan, it was decided at our last neighbourhood plan meeting that we had that we would now invite those members of the Holme Valley and the Holme Valley who live in the Holme Valley who would have an interest in it, such as the Home Fair Special Group and the Tidy Trader groups and every group that there is. And because we were unaware of how many actual groups there might be of interest, such as there'll be HOTS and our friend and all the other people that come to do all these meetings, we did ask them if they would like to come, because we would welcome their representation on this group of people to form this neighbourhood plan, because we do need an awful lot of input from other people besides, because it's not our decision what happens, it is the electorate's decision as to what happens. Okay, so it was decided that we would seek to have it at the Methodist, yes, on the, on the, which is on the 27th of April, and I would ask for your approval on that. Please, thank you.
Thank you. Comments?
Any comments?
Happy with that.
What, sorry?
I'm happy with that.
All right, okay. Have a show of hands then?
Chair, just one. How can we ask for residents' opinion when they don't know what's going on?
Well, they will do when they get...
Excuse me, I was talking to the chair.
Oh, I would
Thank
have just
you.
referred it to the... Can you answer that question?
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, I will answer your question that we shall be holding individual areas where, such as Honley Central, probably the whole of Honley, but such as myself who represents Netherthong, will hold meetings at Netherthong, of which there are, if there are any groups that are in Netherthong, it is hoped that they will attend also, and we will ask if they have any thoughts as to what we need to happen in Netherthong, that probably to do with housing, to do with highways, to do with schools, to do with whatever the neighbourhood plan is about.
Thank you for that, Councillor.
Okay, are you happy with that, Councillor Saber?
No, not really, because you said that it could be anything from housing. Now, we have local groups in Honley that do speak against housing, but not listened to.
No, it's
So
not about speaking against, it's where they would be happy for there to be some housing development.
So the public are going to be asked...
So the such as in Honley, where they would be happy for some additional housing to take place.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey.
Tomorrow will be on there.
The neighbourhood plan, which Councillor Searby has been involved with at some time, is people of the valley deciding where houses has got to be built, and industry and other things coming into it. Kirklees will tell us how many houses are required, and this council, I think, will probably decide how many goes in wards, might go with per ward councillor or per ward or something like that. And then the residents of that place will decide where they're going to go. It might be knock down the little bit above the schooling only and build a lot of flats and stuff like that. I don't know. So
That's a
they
nice
can decide.
church knocking down.
No, we'll say more to the left-hand side of the angle.
Thank you for that, Councillor Bailey. Okay then.
You need my house.
Right, item 13.
Oh, folks, that's
Mum's
what.
house.
Item 13. To approve other arrangements for the annual parish meeting. Councillor Roberts alluded to the fact that I want to, I won't be standing for election this next time, and therefore that will be my last council meeting, other than hanging over my badge in May. So I wanted to sort things out so I could actually give my charities money on that evening, and have pictures and deal with everything as well. And invite all of you to stay behind and have something. Don't know what it'll be yet, but something. So there will be nibbles at my soiree. So yes. So that's just to. You might want to come in your best Bidman tucker that evening, and this will be.
Yeah, we'll only spill down as best Bidman tucker. We'll be coming in rough stuff for that.
Pictures being taken. So. Thank you for that. So I suppose I'm not asking for approval really, I'm just going to do it. Is that all right?
Yeah, get on with it.
Yes.
It's had to be chairman's.
Yes, it's part of the chairman, yes, chairman's.
Could council approve the cost of the advert?
For the annual parish meeting, can I ask you to approve the cost for an advert to go in our Rome Valley Review? Rome Valley Review. Can I have a show of hands, please? Thank you. That looks good. Item 14, matters arising from the minutes. Council minute number 14, to note the email dated the 24th February from Kirkley Safe Communities Renew Mill CCTV arrest. Noted? Yeah. The council minute number 14222, to note the completion of the service contract. Is this the clocks? Yes, this is the public clocks that have been done, and you've all been given a report.
He has accepted the contract as well for next year.
Okay, so that's noted. Accounts for payment, to approve the payment of accounts for February, copy enclosed. Have you got any comments?
Could I please ask Chair, through the press, have we had any people who have come forward regards to the work that's been done on the toilets? Sorry, on the lavatories.
We'll come to that later, don't we?
Sorry. I will. Thank you.
Are we happy to approve the accounts payments? Quick show. And thank you very much. To approve chairman's expenditure and donations, I haven't done anything, so is that all right? Noted. Thank you very much. Financial matters, to consider clerk's report on budget comparison 2014-15. This is about, and recommendations of potential overspend and environment of funds. I think we're asking to allow the clerk and council K to do some environment we can agree to now, isn't that?
Yes.
Is that?
Environment for those, where you have an overspend on a budget, then the public accounts are likely to get formal approval to move the overspend to another budget that could be contingency, for example.
Yes.
So we just want to seek approval that where we have budgets that perhaps have been overspent, that we get formal approval to move those to a budget where we've underspent.
It needs to be done before the 31st of March, because that's the end of the current financial
So guess we
year.
approve it now then.
So we're doing the environment.
Can I just ask a question? Then?
Yeah.
If you move overspend to an underspend, so we don't lose it,
Yes.
can we move it back again?
So what do you mean by move it back again?
Well, if we're overspend, Do they take it off us, or do we?
No.
keep it.
At the end of the year, we'll be hopefully underspent.
Yeah.
So, and we carry that forward to next year.
Right.
Yeah.
All underspends are carried
Purely
forward.
an accounting
Yes.
process.
Yes, this is not like school governing bodies where it might be on, where you're only allowed to have 10%
Yeah.
overspend. It's not like that. We can be 20%, whatever percent.
Okay.
We can carry everything forward.
Okay, so can we agree with that course of action for the clerk?
Yep.
Thank you very much. Consider financial matter World War I earmarked reserve clerk to report.
I've had a number of discussions with Councillor Bellamy about the World War I commemorations that's going to be happening this year. Members will remember that there is an amount in earmarked reserves left over from the events in 2014. And in fact, I think the group that's now organising this year's event are already making moves to start taking income from bookings or trade stands or whatever they're going to class them as. My concept, well, I think originally it was agreed that I should have no further involvement really with the working group as it was, and in fact Councillor Bellamy and the current Vice Chairman were going to organise the event with their own group, but there's still the matter of the earmarked reserves which need to be accounted for, any expenditure but also any income that comes in from the trade stand bookings, because I would recommend that Councillors Bellamy do not have cheques made payable to themselves. There isn't a group other than the Parish Council, and therefore any funds should be paid to the Parish Council, but we need some form of accounting for them. And we don't really want one. I wouldn't advise that the Council brings the income into the normal funds. They should go into the earmarked reserves to be held for future events in the next 2 years perhaps, because I think it was agreed that originally it should be over the 4-year, it was a 4-year process up to the end of 2018. I would therefore suggest that perhaps we ask HSBC Bank to set up a sub-account similar to the one that we have for the Chairman's Charity or Chairman's Allowance account, so that cheques can go into that account, but they don't hit the normal Parish Council's accounts.
Yeah.
The auditor, the internal auditor, is aware of the Chairman's Charity and the Chairman's Allowance, but does not feel it necessary to go through the Chairman's Allowance and Chairman's Charity accounts. The same, therefore, should apply for the World War I funding and the earmarked reserves. Is Councillor Kay, first of all, happy with that?
If the bank's happy to have that sub-account,
I would
we'll
have
call
to
it
ask the
that.
bank.
So, subject to the bank approval, and support that check.
Okay.
And that wouldn't have any tax implications, would it?
It would have no tax
Oh, right, okay.
implications, and
That's fine.
that's why I didn't want the Bellamys to have the accounts going to themselves, because then it would have tax implications. If any VAT is therefore claimable, if it's through the Parish Council, I will check with the accountant, the internal auditor, whether we can actually claim any VAT back as well. Just the same as we do through the Chairman's Allowance. If there are any expenses, for instance, where that has been payable, we have in the past been able to claim it back.
Yes, that's fine.
Because the account was in the name of the Parish Council.
That's fine.
Okay. I would just need to check with the bank who the signatory should be on the account, and perhaps Councillor Bellamy should speak on that point.
Yeah, thank you. That idea regarding the account, I've spoken to Sally quite often regarding that. We were going to, initially, we were going to look to when the new council came on board.
Yeah.
But would be appropriate to do it now, because we're at a stage where there could well be small amounts of the money coming in. Equally, with 3 different areas where we may or may not wish to get grants the summer building. I think to take pressure off Sally and to move the threat of auditors coming and causing a great concern because there was that item within the council's figures. I think we should back that as an idea and it will be a great move.
I would still have to do the accounts and I would do them on QuickBooks, but as a separate account.
Yeah.
For my own
Yeah.
benefit to know that everything was run, because the accounts are in the name of the parish council and the bank statement was, and so the bank statement will be reconciled just the same as any other account for the county.
Move Sally's recommendation.
So we'll move that. Can we just have a quick update on the 20th of April meeting?
Yes,
Just to
20th of
confirm
April
that it's-
meeting, I'll get a view from the bank
Yeah.
and go through the process to fill in the associated forms. On the signatory, would it make sense for perhaps the vice chairman, who potentially will be next year's chairman, and the clerk to be signatories on the account, just the same as chairman and clerk are for the chairman's allowance one?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. The item 3 is to note Royal Mail price changes from Monday the 30th of March. Being closed. Noted. Thank you very much. Annual review of policies and regulations, the risk assessments, to consider clerk's report and recommendations. I'm asking the council to defer that to the next meeting. We haven't done that.
Ran out of time, sorry.
So we put it on the agenda for the 20th of April.
Yes.
Insurance cover, to consider quotation from the current insurer and any suggested changes to cover. Copy policy renewal enclosed. Character report.
Madam Chairman, we've always been good enough before. So I think we should get them on again.
We were tied in fact, to a, I think it was originally a 3 or 5, I think it was 5-year policy. And I think we may be on year 3 now.
It was part of a scheme.
So it was part of a scheme, yes. And when we last did a review, they were still very competitive and they have always been very helpful. If we've added anything mid-term, they've added it free of charge, without additional cost.
Okay, so are we all right with that then?
Yeah.
I will go through and check the schedule because there will be some items that can drop off from the 1st of April, such as the computers that are on the service level agreement with Kirklees that hopefully will not be required anymore after the 1st of April. So we can take those off the policy, not our responsibility then.
Okay, thank you for that. Item 18, public conveniences. To note receipt of executed even copy of the lease in respect of the public toilets, Town-gate, Holme Fair, clerk to report.
The lease, which was signed by myself and so it was 20th of November. The actual executed copy of the lease was received here on the 3rd of March, dated the 26th of February.
How long
It's
did it take
taken
to come back?
4 months nearly.
Yeah. Typical care, please.
So I think that's just to note.
To note. Thank you very much.
But we do
clarify that. Does that mean 6 months from the end of May, March?
From the 20th of November.
So 4 months are done before you get it.
19th of May when it expires.
Is there anything to stop, Chair, or this is just floating an idea, a decision made on whether or not the Parish Council take on the toilets before the 4th of May? Do we have to let it run the full term?
I think the council needs to be considering now what it wants to do longer term. We can't leave it until the 19th of May to then say we want to renew the lease for either a 6-month period, a 12-month period or indefinitely until if and when we decide to take on an asset transfer, because the council still has not made that decision.
But perhaps it would be worth thinking about at this stage whether it would be a good idea that this particular council made the decision because they've got the background knowledge to it, rather than letting it come to the election time, and some members may not be sitting around the table, and therefore we wouldn't have the benefit of their knowledge and experience. So I don't want to get caught in that limbo between the 5th and the 19th, if you see what I mean.
Item 2 we should take into account that.
We don't have another meeting.
We don't have a council with service provision, no. We have a council with finance and management. But the service provision is normally when public toilets and things like that are discussed.
Is it possible to make that decision this evening or not?
Item 2 consider report recommendation.
Could we not organise another subcommittee of the meeting just to get us minds together and we'll put recommendation forward to the next one? I know it's not the right meeting, but I think that's the logical answer to that. Is best have a meeting ourselves, put recommendation forward for the next full meeting.
Which is when?
20th.
So we're all right, yeah, good idea. I'll second.
Okay, so the proposal is that the toilet working groups will bring recommendations to the meeting on the 20th of April.
Yeah.
So we've had to choose.
So we need a toilets working group
Yeah.
meeting
to
be set up.
Right, are we all right with that? Can we move on
Do
to
you,
item?
do you want me to just email round about the toilets working group?
Unless we want to start it now. Oh, no, Tom's not here.
The two of them not here, Greg and Tom. are they?
No.
So I'll just email round.
Sorry,
Can I just ask you, with what I was going to ask before, have we had anybody inquire with regards to taking on the cleaning of the toilets?
No.
None whatsoever?
No, not as yet. Because the notice has still not gone on the website, or the jobs. I've been in touch with the jobs people, but they've not come back to me. Tom Dixon suggested jobs, Holme jobs, but they've not come back to me.
We've not put anything in the review, have we?
No, we couldn't put anything in the review. We've missed the deadline for that. So,
Thank you.
but there was something in the previous edition.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was an article in the previous
but we
edition.
didn't have anybody come forward with regards to that.
No.
That was going to be, we were wanting them for free, weren't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. This is now where we are asking for tenders.
For tenders,
Yeah.
for the work.
And I'm hoping that the tenders will be in for the next council with finance meeting.
Right, that's fine.
Because the council would have to decide on that,
That's fine, thank you very much.
following a recommendation from the toilet working group.
Councillor Bodden?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm aware that there's a number of organisations in Home Firth area that are dedicated to looking after the interests of Home Firth over and above the Parish Council. Is it worth emailing the likes of Head and Hot and the rest of it? Is it also worth putting something onto the What's On in Home Firth, Kerry Sykes website to try and drum up a little bit of interest and support? Maybe.
Maybe the recommendations for the toilets working group to bring back a number of recommendations, because if the recommendation is...
We've done all that.
We've done, yes, we have.
We have done all that.
Yeah.
Maybe do it again. Try and
They won't want to be involved.
Yeah, yes, yeah. We'll call a toilet working group and we'll explore
Avenues.
what we're going to do about these and then other items.
Thank you. I just had one thought listening to the various options that came up there. Our MP's running job fairs in various parts of his area. There's been a couple in Holme, and perhaps if there was a third one, I don't know whether there's another one planned, but it could be something that could be added to that. It's quite diverse what they advertise. You know, they advertise Army and Navy and various things.
The problem is it's not really a job, is
No,
it?
it's a
Contract.
tender.
Yeah, it's a tender. It's only 2 hours a day for virtually 365 days a year, excluding.
Okay, thank you for that. Item 19.
20p. In February, and I'm going from memory here, so forgive me if I'm not quite right, the take was £156. That's February. That's the quietest month. Okay. If you gross that up, so if you said there were 12 months of Februaries, that'd be nearly £2,000. That doesn't take into consideration the festivals, the fact that we get more visitors during the summer months and whatever. And it could be that we are taking £5,000. Not unrealistic to suggest that. How much was declared when when Kirklees were employing somebody at £15,000 to sit in that place and take money? I think it was suggested it was 5,000 actually. So it seems to me, yeah, interesting that.
Who opens the box?
Take the money. The contractor does, and he banks it, as far as I know.
Michael Miles.
Oh no, sorry, no, he brings it in here.
It should have been Michael Miles.
And interestingly, there are 50p's that go in and pounds. Really?
Is that because
Well,
they need the big check?
I don't.
been a very grateful person.
There was no toilet paper. It was a fiver, there was no toilet paper.
Are we on 18.2?
Yes.
Number 2. Lovely. Right. Just to give you an update, Holme toilets sold. 46,000.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Not entirely sure what we're going to get, but I should imagine with somebody with that amount of money, it will be something soon. If you recall, way back when we were talking about Holme toilets, Home, New Mill and Home Fair, there was a conversation about the then area committee putting money towards doing it. And certainly for Holme, we were looking at that. If I remember correctly, Donald indicated Home Valley South members would do the same if we called on to do so. How much? £10,000. Oh, I had it in my mind it was 2,000 a year. But so we now don't have area committees. We've got a district committee. The money is divvied up by ward. There is money available to help support something like this, and I think we should be asking district committee to reach into the pocket and help fund it. Which then brings me to this bit, which I'm a bit disappointed at, which is where thanks Councillor Sims for keeping on for toilets open.
Yeah, I know that.
And there isn't a mention at Parish Council or work at Parish Council in it. Now, it's material. There's a lot worse. But if they're so keen on helping us keep them toilets open, I'm sure they'll be ecstatic at being given the opportunity to put money from their budget into keeping Home toilets open. And I would encourage us to put that grant application in to the district committee as fast as those little feet can do.
I'll second that.
I agree.
What do we ask for?
Thank you. 10. Let's look at 10.
20.
Chair,
We can take it out.
Sorry?
With a copy of that enclosed.
Yes.
I'm Chairman. The light of what just has been brought to our attention there, so that should be put right.
It's an electioneering paper.
I don't appreciate that, but it is a lie.
Well,
It is a lie.
what it says is, we have already worked with the community to reopen Home toilets, which are labelled council closed, it says council against. So,
Sounds about right.
Perfect,
one of the things that this parish council needs is to be acknowledged for the work it does do. Otherwise, it's a bit like with the grant request, where the role we fulfil is constantly lost, and then our relevance kind of disappears at the same time. If it had been me writing it, I'd have been saying how we've worked in partnership with the parish council and the wider community to keep it open. There's nothing lost in giving some acknowledgement. But yeah,
Councillor Gordon. Just hold it, please, madam. Thank you, Chair. Just thinking back to an earlier item on this evening's agenda, it would appear that our MP, unfortunately, is being given some terribly wrong information. And I think it is incumbent upon us as a parish council to ensure that our MP
doesn't make mistakes like this again, because it would be awful if he was embarrassed by anything like this. I think it would be lovely if the parish council were to write to inform the MP exactly who kept toilets open in Holme, just so that he doesn't make any silly little mistakes.
He doesn't like Parish
I
Council.
would suggest that we include that we've got £15,000 in our next year's budget that will keep it open for 12 months, and that we'll be seeking support from Councillor Sims that he will support this through the committee.
Chair, and I forgot to report earlier on, sorry, going back on the agenda, I've had, as you probably know, an exchange of emails with our MP, and the MP supports our stance of no bullying of either paid employees of the council nor elected members, and that is in writing. He sent that to me. He supports our position.
Thank you.
Can I also comment on that paper? And whilst I will openly declare that I'm a member of the Conservative Party, it does also say about New Mill Library in there, but that actually is about 2 years out of date. I'm very sorry to have to say, because it is now a pharmacy, and whilst it is an electioneering paper, it is a little bit out of date.
Well, it does mention the future of welfare, and I'm sure it's not on here, but I wouldn't mind just giving you a bit of an update about some that came out today.
About libraries, we've got libraries on. Is it not
I'll
libraries?
cover it in libraries,
All right.
but no, it's about Ian.
Next item is Kirkland's Council Strategic Asset Review, and the first one is to actually consider the email dated the 2nd of February from a local resident re the demise of Holme Library Tourist Information Centre. Happily enclosed.
It's nice to hear what you're saying, Councillor, about you being one of these Conservative people. When you have your Conservative meeting, will you be actually telling them what you've actually told us?
Yes, that's a good point, Peter. Thank you very much.
In other words, you're not going to be two-faced, are you?
No, absolutely.
Thank you for that, Peter.
Have you ever known me be two-faced, Councillor Trevor?
Thank you for that.
In a word.
Can we move on? We've got the Holfirth Library Tourist Information.
Right. I might be jumping gun a little bit with next bit. In O'Valley North, we run into a bit of a problem in terms of moving things forward, because we're Kirklees is midway through this library review. So kind of everything's up in the air till that review's completed. Public consultation, I think, comes to an end shortly, and then there'll be a lot of to and fro in and whatnot. The outcome of which will then be a report for how things are going to move forward. So my last meeting with exec was, I can't really answer your question, Charles, until the outcome of the library review. Then, and that was a week and a half ago. Then last week, one of our senior officers within library service came to a Friends of Only Library meeting to give us the good news, which was effectively we're facing closure, which was interesting in view of the fact that I'd only just been told that we can't really talk about all until the outcome of the library review. So I asked her about this and said, well, yeah, it's a proposal at this stage, but we just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware of what things are looking like, so that there's time to act, which was brilliant, because I'd have rather waited for the outcome of the review, which has the detail behind it, rather than somebody just exploding a meeting without any prior warning. Holme Library, in these proposals, okay, so what I've been told, I've seen the proposals are going into the review process. What turns out at the end of it, we're not sure. Holme is listed as a town library. The resources for a town library will be a building, services and supplies, 2 members of staff, okay, and maintained as part of core library service. Now, I don't know how tourist information fits in with that at Holme. Anywhere else, so if it were Batley, it's just a 2. Hopefully there'll be some additional resources for tourist information, otherwise it might just be a display board, and I'm fairly sure at work at tourist information centre downstairs is a lot more involved than just offering leaflets. that's one for Kirklees Ward councillors to take forward, but in terms of our asset working group, I think it's something that they need to have an eye on in terms of what the resourcing are, because it'll be very easy for councillors in other areas not to be aware of the fact that it's a library and tourist information centre that needs to be accommodated. Probably best case scenario will be three full-time members of staff, and it'll keep Holmfirth open. It will need community involvement, like they all will do, to help support additional activities. So it's looking reasonably good for Holmfirth. The only way I believe that that can be delivered, and this is no more than a rumour, but I think we've all heard this rumour, is they'll have to go across to top of Aguilar. The only way you'll be able to run it with that number of people is it will need to be an open room. You won't be able to have it over floors for lone working issues. You won't be able to have one person on one floor and one up above. Whereas if it's a single room of whatever sort, it'll be fine for, it won't be lone working with two people. But then again, if there are a lot of volunteers, that should help address that, which is what we were looking at Holme. So it's not brilliant news, but it's not the worst. For Holme, it's a different story. Holme is listed as community run. We've always had this opposition for village libraries. So when I've been in to see them, I've not been talking about Holme and Meltham. I've been talking about village libraries, of which Holme and Meltham are village libraries. We've been listed as community run. Community run is no staff, pay for your own building, and at the moment it's services supplied at nil cost, but with a view to introducing charges at the future. So basically you'll have to pay for the privilege of operating Kirklees library service as well as resourcing. That's a bit of a tall order for us at Holme. We are in front of the queue in terms of volunteer involvement. We've already got people doing it and we're looking to expand it. It came as a real shock. We had to kind of like encourage people just to step back a bit. We haven't gone through the review process yet. We've put our inputs in there. My view is for any existing viable library, community run is effectively the end of it. Community supported is what we want to see for Holme. Community supported is basically a member of staff, probably 20 to 22 hours a week. They will run the library with support from volunteers. And volunteer support is essential, but without that one person in there acting as management leader and to control and organise, it's very difficult for a voluntary group that's supposed to do activities every single day, every single week, to survive really without one person really coordinating, and I would say almost like the Parish Council, without somebody being there to sort things out, things would get lost. So we're keen to see Holme become community supported. But even at community supported, there's a lot of pressure for us to do an asset transfer to take responsibility for the building. Skelmanthorpe, so I don't really Dale Parish Councillor, Kirklees Parish Councillor, he's recently joined Cabinet, he's a Labour Councillor, recently joined Cabinet. His part of his responsibilities are libraries, so he's just spearheaded Skelmanthorpe Library and Parish Council building asset transfer through. So we're trying to understand the detail that he agreed effectively for Skelmanthorpe, just to know what kind of deal we're likely to get offered. Whichever way it plays out for Holme, we're going to have some serious pressures about keeping the place up. And budget-wise, at the very least, it's going to be 10 grand a year, and at the very most, we're looking at 30,000 a year, depending upon what resources Kirklees puts in. I have to stress, community run, there's so many issues with it. The number of volunteers you need needs to more than double. You have to sustain that, not just for a year, you have to sustain it, well, effectively forever, or until somebody comes with a big checkbook and says, I'm going to pay for staffing to go back in. And that's on top of, if you like, ever-increasing demands on service and needs. And then to cap it all, being told that in future years we might actually have to pay Kirklees for access to Kirklees library systems. We're a bit like, we're a bit much. But we need to see where we're at with that from the outcome of this review. I can't see Home First status changing in where it sits. It'll be town library, but the detail of it we'll need to keep an eye on. We're told that'll come in summer. Not entirely sure when it will come. We've been told there's supposedly been library reviews going for like last 4 years, and then they all get rolled into the next one and next one. But this one's actually looks like it's going to deliver something. The other bit to remember is library budget's moving from 5.9 million down to 3.9 million. So this year it stands still. Next year it's £500,000 reduction. The real big hit is in year 3. But Kirklees only prepares a 3-year budget. The bit that has not been covered and not really been spoken about, it very definitely is the elephant in the room, is year 4. Year 4 is effectively where Kirklees' reserves have almost evaporated, and reserves are propping up the gaps in the budget this year, next year, the year after. In year 4, that gap is substantial. I suspect year 4 will be more bleak news, but obviously it depends what happens in the interim. Currently the gap is about £20 million. So you can find some of that from reserves, but all that does is delay it to year 5. It's likely to be that ultimately the library budget will then go from probably 3.9 million to the 2.9 million that we talked about a while back. There is room, even within 2.9 million, if all libraries, and that specifically means Huddersfield and Dewsbury, make room in terms of sharing staffing around. And in terms of reorganising the service, well, if you're having a more streamlined service, my view is that we can also streamline all that management that sits around it. So even on half budget, there should be enough room to keep all viable libraries, for want of a better word, functioning, to be supportive and encouraging and get volunteers signed up and get them trained up and start being active. Library services have had this talk in other places, and the response hasn't been like it was at Perth, or as it's been at Holme or Melton. The response was basically, nobody turned up. The question is for those areas, well, what are you going to do about that then? If everybody's got to get volunteers involved, and no volunteers are coming forward, how are you going to deal with it? Thankfully, that's another part of Kirklees, so I'll carry on with it. The bit that came out today was asset disposal. So, there are a few sites in there for the Holme Valley. The two big ones for me are Melton Town Hall's listed, which we suspected, but we still haven't made arrangements with Kirklees in terms of what happens with Melton Town Council, what happens with Melton Library. This building is listed, and that plan is for the disposals from 2014 to 2016. I think it had been mentioned before in December, but it's now been ratified. It's been passed down to officer. What we call it, but basically it gives the authority to act to senior officers. It mentions this building. It doesn't mention that building. It mentions Home First Council officers for disposal. It doesn't say anything more. It's just a long list.
Thank you for that.
Can I just say, we're on about assets and asset stripping. I know I'm going back a year or two, but I'm just wondering how many other places are in the same situation. When New Mill Library was moved from where is now a bit, was sold off for a building plot, it was put into the Co-op building. Now, to maintain that as a library, it had to have a lift fitted, which Kirklees supplied at, I think it was a cost, was it 50,000, 60,000. The library's now closed. The Kirklees lift is still there. It would be very interesting to see if Kirklees got any money back from the Co-op, got any money back from the people that are now using the pharmacy. And did Kirklees say, go on, we'll pay for it, have it? Because if that's the case, this is money that's absolutely squandered and wasted. And I am sure that New Mill isn't the only place that this money was paid to facilitate a library in somebody else's building. It's scandalous.
Last week I was speaking to an ex-senior officer of Kirklees. We came up about libraries, tourist information. I didn't tell him too much because I don't know too much. But he said tourist information need a large storeroom. Keep if they're going to be effective. And we can't see there's been enough storeroom across at the market site. He was very much involved in setting up the tourist information offices and stuff like that.
A question for Councillor Green through yourself. When you say this building, the council buildings, do you mean this building or this building and the tourist information?
It says on home for council officers. Exactly what that. But to me, I'd take it as being upstairs, downstairs. But that's the library. So.
Okay. Back to the agenda. The original act was to consider the email about the library tourist information. I don't think there's not much we can do at this point but note it. So we'll note that. And then to consider the report and recommendations from the ASIC working group following meeting on the 23rd of February. Now my understanding is a lot of that was that were already discussed, like getting the phone sorted out, getting the IT structure sorted out, getting the photocopies sorted out. We're actually at the last meeting. Or was it just commissioned? Anyway, that's all sorted, the phone, the IT and the new photocopier. So it was about being reliant on Kirklees for their services, which we're no longer reliant on.
We are totally independent now.
Yes.
In terms of service level agreement, non-existent.
One of the suggestions at that meeting was that, if you remember, I had a meeting with Councillor Sheard and Graham Turner before Christmas, and they said they would supply us with some information. They haven't supplied the information, so I emailed. They still haven't supplied the information.
Didn't for a month yet.
Sorry?
Didn't for a month.
No, it isn't for a month yet. Did you say it's going in today? No.
No.
I've emailed Councillor Sheard again to ask questions about what is on the table, basically, as per the recommendations of the group. So
I think we did say we wanted to specifically ask them if the offer was still open for that room in the City Hall at zero cost.
There were three things. One, is it still on the cards that we could move to the City Hall second floor, that any cost was going to be borne by the council, by them, not us, and even down to some desks and some chairs or something. Cost of the moving,
Cost of removal and new office for second hand.
I've asked the question. I've emailed out. The reply was, this will be in the hands of Graham Turner, who's writing a document about how we were going to communicate and negotiate with parish council. So I did send him another email back saying, what? Why are you telling me he's going to write a document? Surely you should be chatting to us now. So it'll be interesting to see what comes from that email.
Can I just ask a question? When we actually moved out of here, wherever we're going to go, who's going to be selling these chairs and tables?
Well, hopefully somebody will get best price for them. Wilby's.
Because these chairs will be worth a fortune. Won't they?
Not be able to take them.
Not on the agenda. That will be something for the ASIC group. If we do move and we don't have facilities for this, then we'll have to have a plan. But I wouldn't at this moment in time want to start telling Kirklees Council that we could sell this for some money when we're asking them for moving costs. So,
we want to know to move if we're selling all this.
I don't think there was any more recommendations from the working group.
No, I don't.
Come on, I'm conscious of time. It's 9:05 and I'm quite tired. But we're on shelters and seats now. So, action taken on shelters and seats.
Nothing to report actually, because the only
Excellent.
item that's outstanding is the seat at Holme,
Right.
and that's going to the next publicity and special projects.
Thank you for that. Complaints and requests for information. There's a long list of things. Is anything that anybody wishes to speak about? I think she's identified what the email is and what she's going to do about it, or what we've done about it.
Already done in those cases.
Yes. No, I think that's all right, isn't it?
Yeah, I think.
Are we all right to just note those then?
The number 13 on the list. Have
Oh,
You
right.
from the
Sounds very
council as
good.
to what further action I
This
could
is
take.
an objection to planning that was written with an address, and the council and true good practice has confirmed and acknowledged the receipt of the letter, only to find that Dan Beale doesn't live at the address that is on the objection letter.
What was the name again? The lady spoke to?
Yes. Similar name, maybe something connection, don't
Maybe
know.
a relative, maybe a relative, possible.
But
So my recommendation would in fact be to write to the case officer, for the parish council to write to the case officer, please, to state that we are aware that at least one of these objection letters has used, is spurious, has used a falsified address.
yes.
Which is illegal.
Can we agree to that action?
Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Osborne, would you like to speak?
I'd like to speak on that one, please. Yes, and to ask Kirklees Council if they have written to every single letter and if they've had any come back, and even if that means doing a freedom of information request on that, to ensure that there aren't just this one isolated incident and that there might be others that are spurious objections or supporting, whichever the case may be.
Madam Chairman, it seems to me that some of those letters were written for the people.
Oh, they were. I was just going to say that,
It is
Councillor
quite,
Dixon.
I spoke to somebody in planning, it is quite common that somebody will print a letter out and literally go around to neighbours and get people to sign. And often they don't even read the letter.
Nothing wrong with that, it's
Some of them couldn't read.
It's this.
of the name, address, and to say that we have found with evidence provided this information, and to ask them to double check and have they written to everyone, because what can happen, sorry Chair, what can happen is they get so many and they will write to the first, say 10, 20 or 30. When you start to get to 50 and 60, the cost implications behind that for the planning department become greatly increased. So therefore I think we have to ensure that Kirklees have followed a policy on that.
Correct procedure.
Can I also add that if it goes to committee, to planning subcommittee, that we ask that the point about the falsified address is referred to the planning subcommittee as well for their information.
Are we all right with that, sorry?
The power of the internet. Is a glazier at Lincoln Cathedral.
Yeah.
Has met the Duchess of Cornwall when she came to visit Lincoln Cathedral, and is obviously a well-respected person in the area.
Not the same man.
I don't. The way it works is you put Lincoln and it pops up. It could be a completely different. But might I suggest we contact and ask him, is he the man who has sent this objection in, and try and identify it? But it's
getting a little bit dubious, isn't it?
Bit too
Thank you.
Spatting.
Yes, but I mean, I was thinking along the same lines as Councillor Cropper, and I was just wondering, might it be an idea to ring?
You can do that if you want.
I think we just put it in the hands of their police council.
That's all you can do.
Are we all right with that then? Yeah. Right. Item 22, Policing and Security. To note email dated 6th of February confirmed the Police and Crime Commissioner for West Yorkshire is unable to attend this meeting. Noted.
How much notice does he have? Are we asking him to come again?
Do we want to invite him again, or should we just
It will
leave
be
it?
after this council, so
All right, yes, good point.
wait and see the next
Right,
council.
item number 2, Rural Crime Prevention Panel to receive a report of the meeting held on the 20th of January, members to report. Short and snappy, we had a meeting. No, the next meeting will be
Tomorrow.
even more interesting, which is tomorrow, because we're actually seeing, we were told about a lot of crime prevention things, like
Chief Inspector Kingsman.
bits of locks and stuff, which they're bringing to show us, and we're meeting with the chief super duper person, Kim, tomorrow, and lots of questions will be asked. So if there's any questions that you want to ask, then please let me know by the end of the meeting. To consider invitation to the crime prevention panel to attend the neighbourhood watch thing at North Kirklees AGM to be held on the 8th of April. That's where they recognise work of the neighbourhood management, the neighbourhood watch groups. Noted. Right. Next, item 23, youth facilities. To consider email dated 17th of February from local youth worker about the lack of youth facilities in Upperthorne. Copy enclosed. Councillor Steele.
With respect for the fact that we are running behind, New Year's Eve 2014, I went to see friends and family and returned home to find my wing mirror had been kicked off my car. And when I went down the length of Upperthorne Lane, found everybody who'd had a car parked in Upperthorne Lane had received the same treatment. Put it behind me, got the car fixed. Next year, made the mistake of leaving the car there again, thinking, well, they won't do it again, and received the same treatment, and so did most of the other cars parked on Upperthorne Lane. When I put something on the Upperthorne Facebook site, which I advise everybody to avoid, I was told quite roundly, what do you expect? You provide nothing for the kids to do. So I believe there is a cause for providing some sort of entertainment for the children, or getting more cars to Upperthorne Lane so they have more fun in New Year.
Well, I was just going to say,
Stop.
we've got lots to do.
Sally sent an email back to the youth worker and asked for her to consult with the ward council. Yes.
Has she not followed it up?
Have you no stocks in Upperthorne?
Yeah, a nice community centre.
Have you no stocks like to put them in?
Okay. Well, I've no doubt we will support whatever we can in relation to occupying the youth of. So we'll just note that. Item 24, highways and street scene matters. This is some letters and I don't really know what they mean, so can we just note them? Thank you. Post offices. To consider correspondence dated 3rd of March from the post office regarding the Holme post office modernisation. Copying closed. Are we noting it? Does anybody wish to comment? Dog waste issues. I'm going to get to it eventually. Parish's forum to note availability of dog waste posters commissioned by the forum. Copying closed.
Nice dog.
Well, why don't we see if they've got any dog bags? If they're from dog bags.
Yeah.
And if they do, and ask them about dispensers and all.
Yeah. Handful left.
It's bags and dispensers, not posters, isn't it?
Yeah. We have ordered some more.
Oh yeah, there's a handful there.
Okay, yes, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Probably the chap who was
Right, okay.
They probably had no change.
Let's have a little hush. We're nearly there. To appoint the chairman and vice chairman elect for the civic year 2015-2016. We appointed the chairman for next year at the last meeting, and therefore there's still the appointment of the vice chair. It was for me to ring round and ask councillors if they were willing to stand. We have one councillor who is willing to stand, which is Jason Brooke, Councillor Jason Brooke. So I need people to propose, second, etc.
Oh, yeah, propose.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, show of hands. Thank you. To receive Chairman's report, short and sweet it will be. Me and Councillor Roberts went to the South Pennine Bench meeting this week and were enthralled. One of the bits that did come out was that there was You know, we ummed and ahed about the precept, and if we went beyond 2%, what would happen to us by various threats? That has actually ceased. There's going to be no referendum, and therefore we could have, should we have wished to, put the precept up slightly more. And then the last bit is just that we're in the round of civic events. I've just got 2 more to go, but they are very tiring on a Saturday night, every Saturday night. However, I do enjoy them. So, thank you. Have you been to? Right. All right. So that's the Challenge report. So we end up with item 29, freedom of information. Act 2003. What information will be made available to the public? Which is everything. But thank you for your patience and being pushed when I needed to push it. That's been grand. We'll do it again.